Welcome to A Warm Embrace, your go-to destination for all things motivation. I'm Guillermo Lopez, and I'm thrilled to embark on this journey with you to explore the endless possibilities of self-improvement, personal growth, and achieving your dreams. I'm here today with my amazing co-host, John, who will be asking me some questions, and we're ready to dive right in. John, whenever you're ready.
We'll be talking about empowerment. What does empowerment mean to you, and how do you empower yourself and others?
Empowerment means lifting up. It means really raising people up to be their best. Whether you are there to support them, whether you're there to be present with them, or you're there to actually push them when they need that pushing. It's actually interesting because that was something that I was really thinking to myself this morning when I was out for my jog, was the fact that sometimes I have to push myself. Sometimes I need to ask myself the tough questions about if I'm resisting something or if I'm digging in my heels into something. And the truth of the matter is that sometimes when we really sit down and think about that, we can see that there's something that's holding us back, whether it's fear, and more often, rather, it's fear because it's fear of the unknown, something that we haven't done before, or something that maybe in the past we have tried and stumbled and we don't want to get hurt again. And it's really interesting because sometimes we just have to go ahead and empower ourselves. We need to lift ourselves up. We need to go ahead and raise our own standards, raise our own actions to actually achieve the things that we really want to achieve. So that's what I do for myself. As far as for others, you know what? I actually meet them where they are and I try to go ahead and uplift. The reason I do that is because not everybody is ready to be empowered at any given moment. With that being said, sometimes people just need to be held. Sometimes people need to have one's presence. Sometimes people just need to be felt that they have somebody's support. So what I try to go ahead and do is I'm there for you. I'm there for the people that need me. I'm there for the people that I love and care for. But I also try to go ahead and push them just a little bit. I mean, not push them to their own detriment, but push them to be better. I mean, we talked about that the last time that we met, John, and it's the fact that we can do better. And I use those words from the creator, Joey Swoll, where he implores people to do better. And I like to think of it as a form of empowerment. It's not necessarily, many people think that he's trying to castigate or he's trying to go ahead and really call people out. But the truth of the matter is that I like to think of it, he's empowering people. He's empowering people to do better. And if we can go ahead and accept our own limitations, and we can go ahead and accept our own mistakes, if we just simply do better, then that's an empowering move. Think about how this world would be if we would all just do better. I mean, I think we talked about that the last time, but the truth of the matter is this world would be uplifted. This world would be empowered because at the end of the day, when we stand in our power, we do and achieve great things.
Can you share a story of empowerment that has left a lasting impact on you?
Yes, actually. A few years ago, my wife, she was elected to be the chairperson of a board. This was when we were living in Kansas City, and she was elected to be the board chair of an organization that was design related, but primarily it was for women in design. One of the interesting things about that time was that each chairperson was allowed to pick a theme for their year in which they were the chair. And so Dorota's theme for her year was empowerment. And it was a very interesting time because she made it a point to truly want to move forward the organization. She wanted to go ahead and eliminate rather the limiting beliefs that some of these women had because of their thoughts that they were in a male dominated industry. Despite the great strides that women have made in the design and the architecture and in the engineering industries, the truth of the matter is that women truly are a minority still. And so the idea for Dorota was the fact that she wanted to empower. She wanted to truly eliminate the concept of the glass ceiling because many women think that the glass ceiling is something that holds them down. And I don't know if you know what the concept of the glass ceiling is, John, but the glass ceiling is in a professional setting that a woman or a minority can only reach a certain level. That once they reach that certain level, they can't go above and beyond that because of long-standing idiosyncrasies, because of long-standing doctrines, where the majority, namely being males and or white males and or the majority in the United States, I use the United States as an example, they are the ones that are always in positions of power. And as a result, like attracts like, and therefore like actually ascends. Been for a while, the whole notion of glass ceiling, and many women still truly believe in that. Of course, this is in no way a statement to minimize women's feelings or minimize a minority's feelings or their views in a professional setting or in a personal setting. But the idea that Dorota was wanting to go ahead and employ, or the notion rather that Dorota was wanting to go ahead and employ during her year, was there is no glass ceiling. It was the notion that there is no glass ceiling, because by shattering that glass ceiling, by shattering that limiting belief, then women were free to go ahead and achieve successes. And a particular example that I remember about that was there was an annual gala for fundraising for the organization. And it was interesting because the way that Dorota was able to structure it along with her board and along with her members was the fact that they were celebrating women in design. They were celebrating women in architecture. They were celebrating women in engineering. And it was, if I remember correctly, it was a masquerade ball. And what they did is that they created drinks that were named after famous female architects. It was a really interesting thing because when you think about it, I think that there were 5 to 7 drinks named after well-known female and women architects. The reason I say that it was interesting is that some of these women in the organization didn't even know about them. And that was empowering in and of itself, because when you go back to history, you can find examples of empowerment. When you think, oh, this is a male dominated industry, this is one where I have to go ahead and fight twice as hard, 3 times, 10 times as hard to go ahead and leave a mark, if even a small one, well, then you're always going to be thinking that you're fighting an uphill battle. But if you go in and you belong and you have a group of people that are there with you and are supporting you and are empowering you and are lifting you up because they're doing that for themselves, they are doing those same actions for themselves, then as a collective, we're all growing, we're all lifting. And so I remember that being a beautiful example, because empowerment is free. Empowerment is something that we can go ahead and give to anybody. Of course, one, it starts with ourselves, because we need to be at our very best in order to be able to raise other people. When we aren't at our best, we have our family, we have our collective who can raise us up, who can go ahead and empower us when we need it. And that's why I think that that's a beautiful thing, because you know how that statement was pretty prevalent about 10 or 20 years ago, it takes a village. And the truth is that it does take a village. I mean, we should start with ourselves, of course. As a village, we're able to raise each other up. And when we raise each other up, we truly lift the collective. We empower each other. We find the best in ourselves and amongst ourselves, and we're able to go ahead and truly bring that out into the world.
How can individuals cultivate a sense of empowerment in their daily lives?
Again, it's just one of those things that we need to be able to talk to ourselves. I know I said this before, but the truth of the matter is that self-talk is really healthy. And I know for a fact that I talk to myself. I have these moments of introspection. I have these moments of self-talk where I need to go ahead and tell myself, you know what, Guillermo, snap out of it. I have to talk to myself that way, because sometimes I let the mind chatter win. And when it's winning, or when I'm finding that it's winning, I'm saying, no, not today. Not today. Like I said, I've given my mind chatter a name, and I know what my mind chatter does. I've come to love my mind chatter. I've come to embrace it. But the truth of the matter is that mind chatter is always wanting to go ahead and keep me safe. We find comfort in the knowing. We find comfort in what we feel that we've done before. It's that moment that we step out of that comfort zone, is that, oh, that's where we are. That's where we're in uncharted territory. And that's where this is unknown. This is not safe. It's almost like we're telling ourselves, Mayday, Mayday, we need to come back to where we feel comfortable, where we feel safe. But if we keep doing that, then we're never going to grow. So we need to go ahead and be able to overcome that self-chatter and be able to say, no, not today. Today, I'm going to win. To this morning, I'm going to win. When we talk to that storm, and I want to borrow those words from Brian Bullock, when we talk to that storm that we're going through, or when we talk to that storm that is keeping us down, and we say, not today, we say, I am directly talking to you because I need to be able to express what I need to express because I'm going to get out of this. I'm going to grow from this. I'm going to be better because of this. That's where the storm settles. Because what ends up happening is that oftentimes when a storm is a brewing, we think back to our childhoods or even through our four-legged friends, where when a storm is a brewing, what happens to them? They start shaking, they start howling, they start trying to hide. Why? Because the storm is too big for them. It's too great. And so what ends up happening is that we go through that. We as human beings personally and individually go through that. And then what ends up happening is that we start affecting those around us. Before you know it, we're a collective of people living in a storm. I almost wanted to say storm chasers, but storm chasers are adrenaline rush addicts. And I know a few, and sometimes I hear about their stories and they're so exciting, but I digress. The truth of the matter is that when we get into these storms, we become overwhelmed. And so by talking to our storms, instead of talking about our storm and talking to our storm, that's a form of empowerment. That's a form of saying, Guillermo, today you and I together, we're going to win. And like you were to say to your inner John, today we're going to go out and we're going to win the day. We're going to win our first hour. We're going to win our morning. We're going to win our day. And today is going to be a true success. And when we do that, that is empowerment in and of itself. You're empowering yourself. And how beautiful it is that we can go ahead and speak to ourselves in a way that we would like to go ahead and speak to others. Because if we think about it, John, how often are we so much more beneficial or benevolent rather to our brother, our sister, our friend? We tend to give them so much of ourselves because we feel that they need it. I mean, we as a human race, we are generous. I mean, of course, there are some that are more generous than others. And of course, there are some that have reached that level of enlightenment that they can go ahead and feel comfortable receiving. But the truth of the matter is that most of us, more often than not, feel more comfortable giving than receiving. Whether it's a kind word, whether it's a warm embrace, whether it's just being present, we are willing to do that for another, but we seldom, if ever, do it for ourselves. And so that's why I really think about empowerment is it starts with us. Today started with me. In order to be my best, in order to be able to give our beautiful audience my best, I needed to start with me. And so this morning when I got up and when I went for my jog, I took care of myself because that's the only way that I can then be strong enough, be powerful enough, be engaged enough to be there for our audience, for our family. And that's truly empowerment. And that's empowering because not only am I empowering myself, but then I can go ahead and help uplift others. I can find the best in others because I was able to find the best in myself. And that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And if we do that, then it creates that ripple effect that we always talk about because we're a people and we're 8+ billion people on this earth. When we think about what one action can cause into another, it's like the ripple that creates the wave and it's the tide that's in the ocean. That truly is remarkable. If we start with ourselves, then we can do that with others.
In what ways does empowerment contribute to personal and professional growth?
In many. At the end of the day, as I gave the example, Dorota was with her example of using empowerment as her year, as her theme for her year. She had this notion of wanting to go ahead and break the concept of the glass ceiling. She said, I don't want to be limited by it. Perhaps at that time she did not know it, but she was breaking a limiting belief. She was truly thinking, wow, this doesn't make sense. I don't want to be limited by it. And it was interesting because there were several board chairs that were her predecessors that were in large architecture firms. And they felt, I'm never going to reach a position of power. At that point, one of them had been chosen to lead the Kansas City Opera House. It was the Performing Arts Center. She was working at this large architecture firm and she was leading the design team that had been chosen to design the Performing Arts Center in Kansas City. This same person was also saying, oh, I'm never going to reach a position of power. This same person was also saying there's a glass ceiling. And I remember a conversation that thankfully I was privy to, but Dorota asked the question, how can you think that you're not in a position of power when you're in a position to lead a design group? How can you think that there is a glass ceiling when you're there to be able to make something amazing? And that performing arts center in Kansas City turned out beautifully. But this is a person that was thinking that she will be forever limited. And when you really think about it, when you really change or you shift the mind, you realize there was no glass ceiling. It was as if that example of the fleas in the jar. It's the one where two fleas, or sometimes it depends on whatever area you're in, they use two frogs and they put them in a jar. And what ends up happening is that they keep jumping. They jump high enough because their natural instinct is to jump, but they hit their heads on the jar lid. They eventually start making themselves smaller. They start jumping a little less high. You know what? Let me just go ahead and jump half an inch less than what I jumped yesterday because I don't want to hit my head. And they kept doing that. And what ends up happening is that they kept jumping. I was like, okay, I can jump this high and I'm not going to go ahead and hit my head. And then a week later, the scientist or the human or the person who's doing the experiment removes the lid. Unbeknownst to the flea, unbeknownst to the frog, they continue jumping at the same height that they were always jumping. They were literally given the opportunity to be set free, and they didn't take it because they thought that there was a ceiling or a jar above them. And that was how we've been conditioned. And many of us have been conditioned. Some minorities in this country say, oh, I have to go ahead and fight harder.
I am guilty with that.
And we do that. And I'm guilty of that as well. And I say that because the truth of the matter is that we think we need to fight harder because we don't have the same advantages. And while that may be theoretically true, the truth of the matter is that the ideas are all in our minds. Those limiting beliefs are all in our minds. We can achieve wonderful things. We can achieve amazing things the moment that the moment that you, John, the moment that I, Guillermo, the moment that our beautiful audience removes the self-imposed limitation, those mind-limiting beliefs, those ideas that we can't achieve this because of X, Y, and Z. I recently read a book. It was entitled Permission to Win by Ray Pelletier. It was a book that was maybe popular in the 80s and 90s. And it was a beautiful book that gave me an eye-opening situation because I don't think that in my life I ever gave myself the permission to win. And it is oftentimes that many of us lead our lives and we walk our lives and we proceed through our lives trying not to lose, which is very different than making our best actions and doing our best to win. Winning is not bad. And I seem to remember sometimes when I was younger, it almost felt like we were taught, oh, if you want to win, if you want to be the best, that's being selfish. And I had these moments of introspection. I really thought of it to myself. How is it that I've lived my life wanting to not lose? And all I had to do was take a small shift. Like, you know what, Guillermo? You can win. And start by winning your first hour in the day. Start by winning your morning. Start by winning your day. And think of how many wins you can achieve and see how that can go into your life. Think how you can win life in that avenue. And again, it goes back to the mind chatter. It goes back to the mind where I lovingly say to my mind, you know what? That thought's not working for me today. Let's go ahead and think of something better. Let's go ahead and think of how we can go ahead and grow. Let's go ahead and think of how we can go ahead and win. Let's go ahead and think of how we can be our best. And what am I doing? I'm talking to my storm. I'm not letting my storm talk to me, actively taking control. And by doing that, I'm empowering myself. I'm empowering the Guillermo that can achieve great things in this world. And by doing that, then I can go ahead and go back to what I said previously. Then I can be here today talking to you, hoping that maybe just one word or a string of words can go ahead and inspire you, John, to feel empowered. And I'm hoping that there's just at least one thing that I say today that can go ahead and strike a chord in the ears and the minds of our audience and our listeners, that they can go ahead and feel, wow, today I want to go and win. Today, I don't want to just not lose. Today, I want to win. And just those words, just changing that terminology, just changing that thought process is such a beautiful thing because, again, it's in and of itself empowering. It's truly what empowerment is. It's lifting up. And sometimes when I think of those words, I think of the Josh Groban song that says, I lift you up. And excuse my instrument today. I use that as a joke. But the truth of the matter is that we need to constantly be thinking that we're lifting ourselves up. Not only should I be able to lift myself up, but I want to be able to lift others up. Again, I go back to what I wanted to go ahead and accomplish, what I wanted to go ahead and create with Guillermo.world, what I wanted to go ahead and create with A Warm Embrace. I wanted to lift. I wanted to create a community, an ecosystem where people are seen, where they're heard, where they're loved. And by doing that, they're empowered, they're lifted up, they're made better. And not by anything that I am doing, but by something that they're doing. And if I can just go ahead and give them a little nudge, if I can just go ahead and give them that warm embrace that they need, or whether I can go ahead and be the eyes and the ears so that they can go ahead and feel seen, if they can feel witnessed, if they can go ahead and feel comfortable enough to share their stories, to be able to lift others, well, then that in and of itself is empowerment. And that's exciting.
This is the last question, Guillermo. How do you envision a world where everyone feels empowered to pursue their dreams and aspirations?
Oh, wow. That question boggles the mind, John, because I often think what this world would be like if we were all living in this empowered state. If we were
It's
all living.
paradise.
It is. It's truly paradise. But sometimes I even think that my imagination doesn't even stretch that far. So that's why I say the word that boggles the mind, because anything that I can imagine, perhaps, John, and more likely than not, it is, your imagination is much farther than mine, or there's somebody in our audience whose imagination goes even wider or broader to think of what we could accomplish if we were to think that we as a collective are empowered and want the best, not only for ourselves, but for our fellow man, our fellow woman, this earth that we're living in. I mean, as you say, and I thank you for that, it's paradise. It's the utopia that we aspire to achieve. And again, that's where it goes, where if we start with ourselves, then we can inspire others. And it's that exponential effect. If I today can inspire somebody, or at least two people, and they in turn can inspire two people, and they in turn can inspire two people, I mean, it's exponential. If even one person, and think about how people can keep and how people can go ahead and do that. It's like if you can go ahead and inspire and just touch somebody, the beautiful thing is, John, is that you don't even have to know that you're doing it. That's the great thing about it. Because if all you need to do is live your best life, all you need to do is do better and be there, be present for somebody who may need it, whether it be by example, or whether it be by word, whether it be by embrace, or whether it be by gift, or whether it be by treasure. The truth of the matter is, you don't even have to know that you're doing it. If you're living your best life, you're empowering and inspiring others to live their best lives, to continue to do the same. And I think that's a beautiful thing where I like to think of where empowerment goes. All these words that we use, whether it's inspiration, whether it's motivation, whether it's empowerment, whether it's resilience, whether it's determination, all of these words that we use in the lexicon of personal growth and personal development, the truth of the matter is they all come together at one point. And where do they come together? They come together with ourselves. We start as one, and we can decide today, for those of you who haven't decided or who are still on the fence to decide that you want to be better. Well, let's make the decision today. Let's make the decision today. You and me, John, you and me, viewers, you and me, listeners. Let's make the decision today to be better, because what you're doing is that you are raising your vibration on this earth. You're already going to go ahead and inspire another person, whether you know it or not. Think about it. I've often loved the whole concept of when people talk on the phone. I was taken aback years ago when I learned that people can go ahead and hear how you're feeling on the other side of the line. If you answer your phone and you say, "Hey there, how's it going?" Of course, you're going to hear excitement. People are going to know that you're smiling. If I'm smiling and you call me, John, I'm like, "Hi, John, how are you?" There's already an inflection, an intonation in my voice that you are already listening to. But if I say, "Hi, John," or if I say, "Hello," if I do a quick intonation, then you're already going to be thinking, "Oh, did I catch Guillermo at a bad time? Did I do something wrong? And that's the danger, because what ends up happening is that sometimes we as human beings, we don't necessarily think that we don't give ourselves the benefit of the doubt. We don't give the other party the benefit of the doubt. Sometimes they're saying, oh, maybe they're having a bad day. No, what do? We say, oh, what did I do? And then we start going down that rabbit hole, which is a very, very dangerous and downward spiral, because we start lowering our vibration. We start, instead of empowering ourselves, we start disempowering ourselves. We start lowering, we start going down. When, quite frankly, I could have had a bad day, but that was only me. But if I had answered in the best way, you would have felt that there was a positive connection. If I had answered negatively and you were still in a very high vibration, if you were in a very positive state, if you were an empowered state, then you could have given something to me. You could have changed my day around. You could have changed my morning around. You could have changed those 5 minutes around. And I like to think that I would have thanked you for it. Oh, wow, John put me in a good state. John's positivity, John's empowered state put me in a better state. But what if at the end of the call, we would have had this conversation and I was like, you know what? Thank you, John. Have a good day. But I wouldn't have been able to pinpoint why I was thanking you. I could have been thanking you for what we just talked about. But what if my thank you was for something more? What if your energy, what if your positivity was able to go ahead and lift me? What if it had been able to energize me? What if it had been able to empower me? And even though I didn't thank you for it, the truth of the matter is, without knowing it, you're already sending me out into this world and affecting others in a positive light. And that's where this collective notion comes from. That's where this paradise, as you so perfectly called it, comes into play. Because at the end of the day, if you can go ahead and make me better, and again, I use that term loosely as in make, because the truth of the matter is that it always, again, comes to ourselves. But if you can help in that, if you can assist in making me feel better or making me better at that moment, then I'm in turn paying it forward, whether I consciously know it or not. And it's the same thing if I were to do that to you. And if it's the same thing if we were to go ahead and do it to 20, 30 people that we're undoubtedly going to encounter today. The truth of the matter is that is just going to continue to grow. And that is how we can lift this world beautifully and amazingly, simply by being the best versions of ourselves, or even the better version of ourselves. Again, we can strive for greatness. And I'm a person who for the longest time wanted to strive for perfection. But it was one of my mentors who eventually told me and told many, who said perfection is the lowest level attainable. Why? Because perfection is unattainable. And when you can't achieve perfection, then the truth of the matter is what ends up happening, then we more often than not, we will give up. And that's the biggest danger. But if we strive for better, if we strive for good, if we strive for great, if we strive for just a little bit better, then you're better than you are now. You're better than where you were yesterday. I'm better than where I was now, where I was just a few seconds ago. I'm better than when I was yesterday, because at the end of the day, all I'm trying is just to be better. I'm trying to do better and be better. And if we can all do that, then that paradise that once was lost has now been found. And that's the beautiful thing about it. And so in thinking about that, since you said that was our last question, John, I think about like the golden nuggets that I want to really take away from this, our talk today, and what empowerment means. And it really, I go back to the beginning, and it really is to uplift. It really is to be a better and the best versions of ourselves that we can be at any given moment. Because again, the best that I can achieve right now could be less than what I can achieve tomorrow. I don't want to go ahead and criticize myself and bring myself down because I wasn't able, or I am not able rather, to achieve the greatness that I can achieve tomorrow. Because why? Tomorrow, maybe I needed the greatness that I needed to achieve today in order to achieve tomorrow. And that's the thing. We need to exercise self-love. We need to exercise that self-forgiveness. We need to be able to go to tell ourselves, Guillermo or John or our beautiful audience, when they talk to themselves, we need to say, today I want to win my day. And if the day is too long, if it's too daunting, then say, I want to win this minute. I want to win this hour. What can I do to win this hour? What is something that I can go ahead and do that I can do better than I did maybe a minute ago? What is something that I can go ahead and do right now that is better than what I did an hour ago? That's how you win your hour. That's how you win your day, because that accumulation of little wins, that is a true win. That's a beautiful win. And that's the exciting thing about it. So when we think of empowerment, I think of uplifting, but remember, it really goes back to uplifting ourselves. We need to truly think of ourselves, and we need to think of what are those beliefs that we keep imposing on ourselves that we don't need. Talk to your limiting belief. As Brian Bullock says, talk to your storm. Talk to your storm, because when you talk to your storm, when you identify your storm, when you are generous to your storm by saying, I acknowledge you, then your storm goes still. The thunder, the lightning, the restlessness, that goes still. And then that storm becomes all the more manageable. And that, in a way, is empowering, because by lifting ourselves up, by thinking, oh, this is something that I can go ahead and manage. When you break it down, when you take the overwhelm, the true overwhelm, or the overwhelming storm, and you break it down into manageable pieces, then what is that? That's already a win, because then you can go ahead and take this piece and that piece, and if you need to put them together to create a different puzzle, or you can go ahead and accomplish it and move it out of the way because it doesn't serve you, that's already winning. That's winning, and it's uplifting. And that is what I really truly think about empowerment. So with that being said, thank you, John, for giving me the platform. Thank you for giving me the space to be able to talk about empowerment rather, and empowering thoughts, because we need it. We as a human race need it. And I know for a fact that I need it. I try to give myself that grace every single day. And of course, maybe it doesn't necessarily serve on a daily basis, but I try to do it on a near daily basis. I need it. And when I say that I need it, I'm pretty certain most people need it. I'm sure you need it, John. And I hope that you give yourself that grace when you talk to yourself in a loving and a positive way. I hope that our audience does the same, because at the end of the day, we have to be able to be as generous and loving to ourselves as we can be, and we most often are, with others. Why not love ourselves? Why not uplift ourselves? Why not empower ourselves the same way that we can and we want to empower others? How can we not want to be there for ourselves the same way that we want to be there for others, or how it comes naturally to be there for others? We need to do that for ourselves. And I believe that is the key. It starts with us, and everything else is just gravy. So thank you, John, and thank you to our beautiful listeners. I appreciate your times. I appreciate you taking the interactions that you're giving me on social media, the messages that I receive across all the different platforms. They are truly appreciated. It gives me such excitement, and it empowers me to continue doing what I'm doing, because every single message, the love, the embraces that I'm receiving gives me the excitement of continuing this forward, because it really reinforces the notion that what I'm doing here today and what I'm doing in conjunction with you, John, and with the Guillermo.world team and the Warm Embrace team, what we're doing good. Those beautiful messages that I receive from all over the globe. Again, I never thought that I'd be achieving such a reach. I truly appreciate it. And for those of you who haven't subscribed to our channel, please do so. Please feel free to continue engaging and sending out and sharing our message with others who you think might need it. We're available on all the major social media platforms. We're available on most major podcast platforms, and we're available on YouTube whenever you want to see us talk. So thank you very much again. And from my heart to yours, a warm embrace.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider supporting us by liking and subscribing to our channel. Your small gesture means the world to us and helps us continue creating more content like this. See you in the next video.